that's not a good picture. Let me try that one more time. Sorry. Okay, ready? One,
That's good.
two, three, cheese. Okay, that's better.
She's like, that is not a good picture. Also, girls, girls.
Yes. Yeah, I am really excited. I have not done a podcast like this
Perfect. Well,
or
hello.
really talked about. Sorry.
No, you're good. Hello, everyone. Don't worry about all that. We were just chit chatting because that's what girls do. We have fun together. This is my military veteran sister in arms, Riley, and we are going to have a very good conversation today. I know everybody don't want to talk about this, and I know most people don't want to hear about it, but there is lots of between mothers and daughters, and sometimes that can leave long wounds into the child, and into the mother. And so, as daughters, we want to have those conversations about what mother-daughter relationships and the lack thereof has done in our life and to us, and how it's affected our relationships with others. She Birthed the Vibe. Thank you for tuning in. If you do not know about us, my name is Ashley, and I birthed a whole vibe. Me and my daughter Mia, we have a podcast where we shed light on how we literally almost lost our relationship. And yes, I may have birthed her, but that does not mean that that child will want to stay around when they get older or respect that relationship. And so good moms, anxiety filled moms don't make good moms. And when you do not make a choice to heal, that can really burden your relationship with your daughters and with your children. And so me and my daughter have built She Birthed the Vibe to have those conversations about what mother daughters relationships mean, and what the foundation of parental relationships look like, as well as how we were able to mend our relationship as mother and daughter. And so sometimes it works out, doesn't work out for the best. And everybody who's tuned in has heard my story on both ends. And I want children because I got three girls, all three. All my kids are girls. I'm not even going to try to have a boy. Don't ask the question. It's not happening. So with those girls, we have had some very good conversations. But you understand that girls become mothers if they choose that route, and we don't want them to repeat those cycles. And so I'm so excited to have Riley here. She's going to complicated mother-daughter relationship, and we are just going to chat. But first, I want her to introduce herself a little, who she is, and how she got here.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. I appreciate it. For everyone that doesn't know me, I'm Riley Groupo, and I was in the military for 8 years. I just got out almost 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years at the end of May, and I was in a widely debated combat arms role for about 6 years of the eight, and finished in public affairs for 2 years. Did a couple corporate jobs and ended up starting a business not too long ago. And my brand is The Standard. And what we do is we stop negotiating yours. So that
Yes.
is where we're at. And we
I
met
love
through our mastermind group. And I'm so grateful that we met. And that's how we got here today.
Yes, awesome. So shout out to Maker's Machine. That's a mastermind that we are in, ran by Shay Sparks and Adam Bird of Heroes Media Group, who is also the podcasting house for She Birthed the Vibe. So shout out to you guys. But yes, that is how Riley and I got connected. And say that again. Your business is all about stopping the what do you say? Stopping the negotiations.
So there, everybody has a level that they know they're capable of being at or reaching. And I help them bridge that gap by way
Yeah.
of accountability and discipline frameworks that I've created. So,
I
whether it's
love
a
that.
podcast too or content, yeah, there is a level everyone knows that they're capable of, and here we stop negotiating that. So,
I love that. I love that. So, like y'all heard, these are two powerhouse women who served in the military. We served our country. Why the military for you, Riley? And then I'll share why for me.
Yeah, for me, so Army, generations of Army, just, I mean, literally almost like 3 generations before me, and then even back to the defenders of the Alamo. I mean, just military service and service to our country and patriotism fully running through my veins, and I had to carry that on. It only felt right.
Yes.
But yeah, that's it in a nutshell. So
Are
um
you are you the only girl in your family?
no, I'm the middle child, and I have a younger sister. She's my half sister though, from my dad's second marriage. So we have quite an age gap, but she's the other girl.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Dang, I was just about to say something, but I forgot it. But for me, military was my way out. That is pretty much the beginning of my disconnect with my mother. Just my upbringing in general. And this is not nothing that I haven't talked about, but being the oldest child, so I am the oldest of three. It's me, my brother, and my sister from my mom, and that journey was just very trying. My mom left us at when I was at the age of 2 years old with the babysitter, so just left us, and she just got overwhelmed and couldn't care for us in the season. In that season, single parent, and it's many of those type of situations that just continue to happen. As the oldest child, then that made me like the protector and the keeper of my siblings, which for me, I held them as my first child, my first children. But they're not my children, they're my siblings, and now I am learning at age 39 how to be a sister and not a parent and not a co-parent. And so we're going to get real deep into that, but because of that upbringing, because being the oldest child with so much responsibility, and having to get raised by multiple guardians, because my mother wasn't always there in the family, then the military was my way out. I am known as a runner. I've always run, trying to just escape my situations, but this was the best decision I have ever made in my life. And again, for all you people who trying to get on here and try to start a controversy, I am going to tell the victory story of my life, but it is my truth, and it is the story. But what people don't realize is when daughters, especially oldest daughters or daughters, are talking about that conflict with their mothers, this is not to bash their mother. This is their truth, and so I want people to not get lost in the conversation that sometimes in those older generations, that's just the only way that they knew how to care for us. Now, of course, neglect was not the way. Leaving children was not the way. That's not what I'm talking about. But there's the lack of communication, mental health, um, conversations, counseling, community support. That wasn't there back then. And so, because of all of those things in my upbringing, the military was the best decision I ever made. It definitely put the foundation in the drive for me to know that I can do better and I can have better. But the number one thing that I definitely wanted was I was not going to have kids unless I could support them myself. My upbringing and my lack of having my mom and all of that neglect really pushed that forward for me. Like I was not going to have kids unless I was able to care for them. And so the military provided that for me. And so we are both Army. I say hello. I love it. So what places did you go in the military in your 8 years? I served 10.
Oh gosh, nowhere super interesting. I was in the Guard for 4, so Pennsylvania, California in the Guard, and then when I was active duty, I was in Georgia and Maryland. I had like a brief training stint when I was a cadet. It was like a cultural exchange program in Peru. That was neat. But I was in the U.S. For my career, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
Fort Benning, Maneuver Center of Excellence,
Oh man,
on
you got
active
stuck.
duty, and then Yeah, and then Fort Meade, but yeah, I wasn't deployable for a lot of it too because of the units I was in, and then the nature of my contract. I had to finish school,
Yeah,
um, so and it wasn't wartime, so.
definitely. Awesome, awesome. So, you talk about making hard decisions, having a strong body. Can you have that conversation and kind of explain your complicated relationship with your mom, and then we can go back and forth about how that developed us.
Yeah, and as you were speaking about your experiences, and why you joined the military, it definitely resonates. I mean, there's some parallels to draw with what I experienced too. Like my mom, she was also in the military, but she got out before her and my dad met, and then he was largely deployed for most of. So he was in as well, but most of his career he was gone. So she was raising my brother and I basically by herself as a stay-at-home
Mm-hmm.
mom. And it reached a point where they got a divorce. I was 9, my brother was 11. But prior to all of that, and for as long as I can remember, she always had an issue with alcohol, and then that escalated to who knows what else, honestly. But it became very bad leading up to the divorce. I mean, it was just really, really unbearable for everyone. And you talk about, neglect. That was very much a thing. I mean, as little kids, we would be left home alone often, or mistreated or verbally abused, just extensively. And yeah, so that was kind of the foundation. I mean, it wasn't all bad, and to your point, like, there weren't these resources that we have that are more well known and accessible today, but they do, like, our parents, I wholeheartedly believe, do the best they can with what they have, and I'm sure she experienced some sort of trauma that made her this way. But again, it's, no excuse for abuse and neglect. So
Yeah.
when that happened, parents divorced, there was another pivotal moment. We She had remarried, and I actually lived mostly by myself for a short period of time at the age of 13, because she remarried and left me in our childhood home, to go follow her new husband, to Florida because of his job. And my brother had left to go be with our father and his new wife. And so, her long story short, my estranged grandfather, her father, lived down the street. And that was like my supervision and care during that time. But anyway, I ended up going to be with them when I finished school, and it just again reached. It was kind of the same situation. I mean, it was really bad. Like, my parents were always arguing and at each other's throats when they were like home together. And then it was very much the same situation with her new husband and her. I mean, they would like get into fist fights and pull guns out on each other. And, I had to go to school the next day. And of course, alcohol was always involved. She would disappear for days at a time. And yeah, I sat her down at 13 years old and I said, listen, um, either you stop drinking and, we have to resolve this situation somehow, or I'm going to go live with dad and his new wife, which I really didn't want to do either, just because of those circumstances.
Yeah.
But it ended up being like, and now that I think about it, we actually had this conversation before she left. And I said something similar. And I remember her telling me, like, distinctly, she goes, well, what else are you going to do if I don't? Like, and
Wow.
so fast forward, I had only lived in Florida for maybe 8 months, in the eighth grade. And yeah, I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to go live with my dad and his new wife. So
Yeah.
that's how that happened in a nutshell. And then I guess at some point in high school, it was just so bad that I had to just cut contact completely, and essentially like pretend like she was no longer on this earth. You know what I mean? Pretending like she was deceased was easier for me to deal with the situation. As morbid as that sounds, but yeah,
Yeah, and
very.
that's super hard that that you have to even think that and to even make that as your conclusion to kind of deal with this whole situation. Like you said, 13. I remember my earliest age of responsibility, like making hard decisions, was 12. And so I completely was with you when you were saying like you got to sit her down and have that conversation. Like we shouldn't have to make those decisions at 12. I think about my kids, and I know you're not a parent, um, but I think about my kids at those ages. Like as they were evolving, getting into those ages, I would see me at those ages, and
Mm,
they couldn't have made the decisions that we had to make at 12, like at all, at
yeah.
all. And so it's situations like that that's really really rough, which is why I feel like it's so important for us to have this conversation, which is why I always fret on here for people to understand that we need to talk about it, and not get offended by it, because we got to solve it. And when my kids started talking to me about, like, you looking broken and you don't really talk right, and the way you talk to me, if you talk to anybody else in the street, like, it would be offensive. Like, I can't take offense to those things, because they were having real conversations about respect and about standing up for themselves. And of course I want them to stand up for themselves, against other people. So it broke my heart that they had to do that with their own parent. And then that brought me back to my relationship with my mom and my relationship with my parents. And I'm like, you know what, I have a choice. And so I want to talk about hard decisions. And so with my choice as a mother, all the way rolling into motherhood, I had to make a choice of, do I cherish this relationship with my child to change, or am I going to stay the way I am and lose them? Our mothers and whatever season didn't make that choice, right? So you said, you had to cut her off. At some extent, you had to cut her off into a state where she was just dead to you. And that's very very sad to hear that a child has to do that with their own mother. So can you talk about just that for somebody who might be watching? Like, we're not making the decision to cut the parent off, but that was for our mental health and our well-being.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. It was difficult, to essentially lose that relationship and have to go through the grieving process at that age, but it was a better alternative than trying to have some sort of relationship where, to your point, like there was no respect, there were no boundaries. I mean, it was unfortunate because her mental state was just completely unhinged, totally unpredictable, didn't know which version I would be getting. And it just was so triggering. I mean, the anxiety and everything, staying in that relationship and having conversations and wanting to have some sort of healthy dynamic was just not possible because of how she behaved, unfortunately. And I mean, it got to the point where over the years, like since that moment, creating she would create new phone numbers and I would have to block them and just leave me these heinous
Wow.
voice messages. Like when I say verbal abuse, I'm like, I get trolled online often, as a
Right.
lot of us do, and people say some pretty heinous things, and I was like, you know what? They can never hurt me because of what was said to me, like growing up from my
Right.
own parents, So it was really bad, and even she'd go online and comment some really really awful things, and yeah, it was just so much easier to just not have any sort of communication with her, unfortunately. Um, yeah.
So you pretty much cut her off. Like you said, you had to block her phone numbers, had to block her number. So that means you didn't go to family engagements. You didn't let her into your space. How did that go with those things?
Yeah, no, and I think that my family in general is pretty broken. So we never really had any type of like, oh, we all, have a family reunion or we're all close. And I think part of that stems from one being geographically dispersed because of military family dynamics. And
Mhm.
um yeah, so she was in Florida and I was in Texas now at this point, and there was that physical distance. So um yeah, after I moved out there to be with my dad and brother and my dad's new wife and my newly born sister, I didn't see her. I mean, there was one time I went to go visit, couple years after that, but that's about it. Again,
Okay.
trying to repair, and it kind of happened like that for maybe, I don't know, 5 6 years after I graduated high school. But yeah, I mean, we recently came back in contact, because her mother, my grandmother, passed, who actually I would say largely filled that motherly role, as I got older. Um, but yeah, that in itself was a terrible situation. So
Yeah.
it's like,
I'm sorry to hear that.
thank you. She didn't even come to the service, which was probably for the best, but it's just like, I don't know. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this, but it's like people that are just so stuck in this victim mentality that they can't even set aside their wants, desires, issues, if you will, for their own children. It's really,
Mm,
really sad.
yeah.
Really
Very,
sad.
yeah, it's very sad. Was that selfless? Yeah, that's selfless, right?
I think
Selfless.
it would be selfish.
Ish. Okay,
The
yes.
opposite. Yeah, the
Yes,
opposite. Yeah.
self-ish. Yes, very, very selfish activity right there. And on my side, so rolling all around, like I said, I'm 39 now. Rolling back around, I had a disconnect relationship with my mom at least since I was 12, but younger than that, because like I said, I remember her leaving us at the not necessarily leaving us with the babysitter, but I remember that account. Like to this day, if I can talk about it, I know, that happened to me. I know that I was left with the sitter. I know that my grandma had to come get me and my sister. I remember things that always were dreams, but then got confirmed that they were real life situations, like being somewhere and seeing her at the bus stop. And I know that's my mom, but I'm not living with her. But I see that lady and that looks like my mom. So I know who she is. And so all those kind of traumatic things that were dreams. And so I understand what you're talking about with that decision of um, not honoring, that care for the child because of your own needs, that I could never understand from my mom, because at the end of the day, I needed her, and whatever she was going through um, needed to be dealt with, so she could care for me. But maybe, in those situations, I don't question it, I don't regret it or have regrets now, because I understand that God had a lot of different angels in my life that kind of like floated that boat, beyond the trauma. But I read this thing and
Hmm.
it said mothers are not just moms. She is also a woman with her own story, her own wounds, and her own growth journey. A daughter is not just a child, she is becoming her own person, forming her own voice. And how do we form that without that mother figure? Which is why this is such a passionate conversation, because I had to form it in the idea, in the dreams. Like I said, I'm having all these dreams um, of imagining what life would be if I had her there all the time, or if I had her to call on all the time. And so my daughter literally had to delete my mom out of my phone because it was just getting too toxic. It was just like, I'm going back and forth. I'm yearning for that relationship that I would never have at that time. And so I'm like they see me broken on the other side of the phone, right? And
Mm.
I'm not gonna get that vulnerable in front of the family, but inside of my home, I'm just crumbling, because I'll never have that with her. And so it was just very, very frustrating, to the point where my daughter had to delete my mom off the phone. And that was how it was for a long time, until we made the show. That is how we got here. And so before the show came out, I had to tell her, like, because I knew everybody's going to be starting to tell her, like, Ashley's got this show out, talking about our journey. And so I told her, I said, I don't want you to listen to this show and just think like I'm poking at you. Like, this is my truth. This is your truth. There ain't no lies here. But I want you to think about this and then make that decision, right? Make that decision if
Mhm.
you want to go forward and make memories that matter moving forward in the time that we have left, or you want to stay where you are. And that's to answer your question. She chose in that instant to stop being regretful and selfish and all of that, because at the end of the day it was a pain stake for her with regret, like so much regret. but
Mhm.
um but she still had time, is what I was telling her. Like, I'm still alive, you're still alive, we still have time. Beyond all of
Aw.
that stuff that has happened, I have my life with my girls, and I'm changing the dynamic of our relationship. And I would like to see that with us, but I'm going to keep my guard up, because I don't want that to recoil back into the way it was. But you have an opportunity, and so it is a choice that they have to make, and sometimes they don't make it, which is why I like to talk to women like you. You're not the only one, I want you to know that. And sometimes you're never going to get that, and
Mhm.
and that's sad for them. But the good thing for you is you're not alone, and now you got all these other sisters who understand exactly what you're talking about and what you're going through. All those years without a parent, on days where you're like, man, I wish I could just call my mom and be like, hey, can you buy me a burger? Something like that simple, or tie my shoes, or rub my back. Like, you don't get to ask those questions.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, it is tough. Like, it's not easy, but I think would have been more difficult to stay trying to repair a relationship that the other person doesn't want to, change anything on their end. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
To your point, like, it's beautiful that you and your daughter could sit down and be like, all right, the past is the past, basically. Like, how do we move forward? Because I'm still here and I love you. Like, I want to be your mom. I would have loved to see that. But I guess one of the most important lessons of life that this taught me is like, you cannot change somebody. Like, you can't. They have to do it themselves.
Exactly.
I don't care who they are. And also, unfortunately, like, sometimes you have to cut family out. And just because they're family doesn't mean they can abuse you and mistreat you and disrespect you. And no. Like, sorry.
Say it.
Um,
Say
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Say it. And I know y'all just heard her. Y'all better listen to what she said. Just because they're family does not mean that they get access to your circle. It doesn't. it,
It's
it, it
true.
truly is something that you have permission to just cut it off. And I really
Mhm.
hope, if that's what place you are in, that you just take that leap, cut them off, and then just watch how your life unfolds without all of that baggage. I'm telling you, it definitely transformed me. It was in that season that I truly healed. you know I think that's what healed me. It was the letting go, is what kind of healed me. And even if I never did get a reconnection with my mom, I know, because that the last couple text messages, one, she was like, I loved you when you were young. I don't even know what that means. I'm still your child, and I cannot even imagine it, to hear someone. I couldn't imagine to say that myself. I can't even I can't even talk right now. Just speaking on that. And so in that message, I said she could pass away now, and I would be perfectly fine, because I know
Mhm.
my heart, and I know what I've tried to do my whole life as far as have a relationship with her and connect with her beyond our past. Like, in this season, it is time for us to really heal and have a relationship. And so that was the most hurtful text message she could ever text me. And like you said earlier, like, trolls be on there, but you can't say nothing worse than what we done heard from our actual parent, which is sad, very sad, that you can't even hurt me worse than my parent. I hope y'all hear that. So you have permission to let go, because it was in the letting go that my healing truly began.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So well said. So true. So true. It's
Yes.
tough. It's like, a breakup, like
Yes. Yeah.
but a
Yes.
more serious one, and it's not romantic, but
Yes. And I've learned that intimacy goes all those different ways, because intimacy with friends, it don't have to be
Mhm.
like intimacy has been used so like loosely with just relationships between your partner, but you don't understand that that connection is also intimacy with parents. There's an intimacy connection with your friends, and
Mhm.
you, when you getting to know them and you considering them and you caring for them, you protect them, right? You protect those relationships, and so you understand that the lack of intimacy and the lack of connection is really why you clash, you know. The resentment is why you clash. Us having to have those conversations young with our adult parents is why we clash, because of the resentment and the just disappointment of you not doing better. You know, is really really why we get here. And so sometimes it's internalized thoughts, and sometimes it's expectations that are not met, but unspoken expectations will never get met. And so that's why I
Mhm.
love this conversation, because now me and my daughters don't leave anything off the table. I mean, to the point where sometimes I'm like, dang, did they really just say that? Because I don't want to hear it. I just did not want to hear that part. Like, let me be mom and don't tell me nothing again. Because
Aw.
TMI.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That's so cool. Like communication is absolutely key in every type of relationship. Like you said, unspoken wants and desires will never get met. But yeah, it's really important to have those conversations. I heard something, not heard something, but recently my therapist brought something to me, and it's really stuck with me because a lot of adults in my life have done me wrong, and I'm like, how do you like what they've done is really not forgivable in some way, shape, or form. And she said to me, and I thought this was so helpful and powerful, she goes, you can forgive the child version of them.
Mm,
And um like, yeah, okay, because now that they're adults, they have options and control and choices, whereas maybe when they were kids, absolutely not, because they're kids. But with that being said, they don't have to carry on their childhood trauma to their children. And I don't know, but it's a beautiful thing that we're doing here and that you've done, is breaking those generational patterns and the trauma, and not carrying that on to another generation.
right, right. We got to break the cycle, and so I wanted
Mhm.
you to speak on like negotiation part and how you kind of transform that conversation in someone, especially when you're saying letting go was like your safe haven, because not everybody can do that. I'm telling you, I just told you I didn't do it. I didn't disconnect from my mom. My daughter literally took my phone and deleted her number. Now, since we don't remember numbers anymore by memory, then it's gone. It's completely gone at that point, right? But God forbid I remember the number, I would still be putting myself in trauma.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true though. Yeah, I don't who's my emergency contact, I have to look her number up every time.
Exactly. Like how we gonna save ourselves? We don't even know the number to the person that's gonna help us, man. Like it's getting bad.
Ashley, oh my gosh, you kill me. Um
But yes, if you could
yeah.
talk about the negotiation piece and how you would mentor someone to walk like you walk, as far as allowing that let go space and keep that boundary.
It's oof, it's hard because I think relationships are so complex, and the nuances could mean the difference between, like, the small details could mean the difference between walking away or staying. But I think that in the simplest way to say it, if it's causing you more harm than good at the end of the day, then you probably need to walk away. Um, yeah, sure, maybe you can tolerate it, but it does take a good, hard, honest look at, like, how is this dynamic actually truly affecting me? Um, and sure, like, I could have continued tolerating these explosive, angry messages and unpredictability and complete instability, but that was taking a huge toll on me emotionally. I mean, like, as a kid, for example, my grades were slipping. But looking back now, I was constantly in like fear and anxiety and just, I mean, I would get so completely unregulated emotionally anytime we had these sorts of interactions that were negative, which were oftentimes what would happen. So if somebody's in that situation, it's definitely uh, honesty with yourself and trying
Yeah,
to be as unbiased as possible, like looking at the straight facts
yeah,
as logically as you can with the emotion factor taken out of it, because acknowledging that there's going to be so much emotion there and so much tie to that person because they are your mother. I mean, you were grown from them, like
right,
you are them, you are a part of them literally.
right.
And it's so hard, but it's doable and there is less pain on the other side. I mean, for the longest time, I was feeling so sorry for myself every time like Mother's Day would roll around and be like, oh, I don't have a mom, like, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, you can feel sorry for yourself, but it's not like that was the choice I made, and it has certainly gotten better with time, as anything difficult, does. It gets better with time, and not staying in that victim mentality is super important too. So, like looking at the facts, the pros and cons, is this causing me more harm than good? And also knowing that okay, if I choose to cut this off, it's going to be really, really painful. And I'm going to want to reach out. I'm going to want to try and
Yeah,
repair again. But I need
yeah,
to remember what happens every time I do that. And I need to remember the setbacks that I have or the toll it takes on me. And it's not worth it. And I mean, if it, I hope this goes without saying, but I didn't mention that, of course, if you've clearly stated your boundaries, if you've clearly stated like your intentions and they're continually disrespected or crossed, that is just a clear example of how this person doesn't respect you or care. They think they can continue treating you how they have been. And if there's no behavioral change on the other person's end, then like any relationship, they're probably not going to change while you're involved with them. Like again, it
exactly.
has to be within them. So yeah. I know there's a lot of words, but
No, that
um
was perfect. That was perfect, especially with the weighing out the pros and cons. Like I get to the point where I gotta write it out and I'd be like, Ashley, look at this. Do you see that? Now you see that that is unbalanced. Like I gotta talk to myself like that because I'd be like, it's not working. Like why? Why do you why and one of my counselors told me I need to mother myself. You didn't have a mother? Mother yourself. She wasn't there
yes.
in the gaps that you needed, mother yourself. Now, when they said that, it clicked in me because especially us as soldiers, like we're always solution. We're solution. Like we're gonna figure out the solution in like minutes. So it's like in that gap, you put those solutions for yourself that she never gave you. And that changed the whole dynamic because when I start receiving that now from her, now I see both sides of it. You know, it's like, okay, now you don't have to hold it anymore because she's holding it. But before, when I had to mother myself, it's like I give it to myself with best effort that I can, and then that helped me to honor myself. So now, you know, if I don't get it from her, I'm still good. If I get it from her, I'm good. You know, and so to actually receive it now on this end, and we're still fresh in this thing. But to receive it now I can like reflect on all of that time that I put into myself as well, but we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have had to be so independent and had to have cared for ourselves. But for everyone who might have this same situation, and you're the mother on that bad end of the other stick, you still have a choice. You still have time. You still have time to fix it. Like Riley said, if you put those boundaries forward, you speak those expectations and apologize first of all, just apologize sincerely and genuinely and then put forth the effort to fix it. You still have time. I did that part. That part I humbly just say, you know what, I'm wrong here and I would like to fix it, but do not treat me like the old me because the new me is walking in that now, because that's the other part. You start trying to walk good and then everybody's remembering her, and I'm like, I'm
Mhm.
sorry that you had to see her. I'm sorry that that's how, you know, you respond to me, but I'm not operating in that manner anymore. In this manner, I hear you, I see you, I would like to help you, I am here for you. And I had to talk to my girls like that slowly. Like we had to just go through phases of that when they're responding negatively because of the negative way that we had a relationship. But it's boundaries, and it's you setting the boundary, them setting the boundary, and you going back and forth to have a healthy relationship. And so I really hope people hear that, and they understand that it's not too late for both ends. And so before we end, I have this expectation versus ending. Sorry, expectation versus understanding um, activity. And so in the activity, these are things that we probably never got to say or never could say. And this is for anybody else. I want you to do this activity and you can just fill in the blank. But the activity is like an expectation for each other, for expectations or understanding. So you would say to the next person, I thought you would, I needed you to, or I wish you
Mm,
had, and you fill in the blank. You can use any one of those sentences, but if you will never be able to talk to that mother again, I want you to write these sentences down, and I want you to write out everything that you thought that they would, that you needed them to do, and that you wish you had. Mom, I thought you would, blah, blah, blah. Mom, I needed you to, blah, blah, blah. Mom, I wish you had, blah, blah, blah. Same thing in reverse for the daughter. Um, you can say the same thing. So, Riley, I wanted us to go pick one sentence and just say that, and and then just give whatever other advice that you would once you release that, because I know in the releasing things, it really is what changes the dynamic and the foundation of what my forward looks like. And so once I put this out, then I'm done with it for me.
mhm. Yeah, no, I love these statements. These are really good, and journaling, can be so healing. So I wrote
Mhm.
them down. And
Perfect.
I think for me, Ashley, the biggest one that I think about often is I needed you to protect me. That's what I needed.
Mm, mm,
Hmm. As a
I
parent
love that.
should. Hmm.
Yes. Yes. Love that. And I am so glad that you released that. And I needed you to,
Release.
yes, release. It has floated. It has floated into the air, into the abyss, and now you are covered. And I hope you feel that comfort. Like I'm getting goosebumps now because I feel like when it gets lifted, then we get like like a blanket wrapped around us. And so I hope you feel that blanket wrapped around you, because now that
Yes.
protection is over you beyond what your mother decided to not choose to do for you. And so I would like to say, I needed you to be there for me, because for me, abandonment is my biggest issue. I will have a whole fit if if I'm in a scary position like elephants in a corner, when a mouse is coming up. If I don't have other people there to see that that mouse is putting me in the corner and to be there with me, I just do
Mm,
not like that feeling of being alone. And so I needed you to be there with me, for me, would be mine. And for anybody else, whatever your sentence is, put it in the comments. Send us a message and let us know. We are here for you, but you are not alone, like we just both talked about. I'm so glad that Riley had this conversation. This is not one of those general conversations that you have, but we have mommy issues. Like a lot of
yes.
women are walking around with mommy issues. And mommy's issues don't have to be taboo. It's something that we can talk about in a sisterhood of women. That's a safe place, because it's
Mhm.
okay to talk about that, because that mommy wasn't there for us.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
she
Thank you,
didn't do it.
Ashley.
Yes, you're welcome. She didn't do what she was
Yeah.
supposed to do. And now we have mommy issues, and now we get to hang out with each other with those issues.
Trauma bond. No, I'm just kidding. No, but seriously, thank you. Thank you for this space. I truly, I think I told you this, but like, this is something I don't really talk about. And, I've worked through it in therapy, but I feel like I have much more, deeper issues, that were at the forefront to work through, but this is still something, I mean, it takes a long time to rewire your neural pathways. So thank you for this opportunity. And I hope our conversation was helpful to whoever was listening.
Yes, most definitely. So again, y'all, thank y'all for tuning in to She Birthed the Vibe. Today you were talking to Riley Group, right?
Grupo.
Groupo. Dang it. I was gonna get it right. That's why I didn't want to say it because I was gonna say it
It
wrong.
means
But
group. It's Italian
group.
for group.
Got it. Gruppo though. Gruppo. I'm gonna use my Italiano and say gruppo. But I feel so comfortable with you, and I love how we just instantly can connect and have similarities. Please don't judge a book by a cover, friend. We are two different people on two different dynamics of the world, but we have mommy issues. That's a similarity, right? That one similarity can bring different people together, and so do not discount small beginnings, and realize like who you will connect with in the future. So thank y'all for tuning in. This is a very important discussion. If you don't have a safe place to talk about it, please tune in or reach out. You are not alone, but do not let it take away from your profitable and prosperous future. We love y'all. Have a great day. Later.
Bye.